Three superpowers, the British Empire, the Soviet Union, and the United States with NATO, they all entered Afghanistan with powerful armies, advanced weapons, and ambitious goals, yet after years of war, enormous costs, and countless sacrifices, none achieved lasting control over the country. So what makes Afghanistan different? Why does history keep repeating itself here? Welcome, friends, to World Unfolded. If you enjoyed discovering history, mysteries, and the stories behind our world, make sure to subscribe to our channel and click on the bell icon so you never miss an episode. In the 19th century, the British Empire was the most powerful empire on earth. But one place worried Britain: Afghanistan. The British feared that the expanding Russian Empire might use Afghanistan as a gateway to British India, the crown jewel of their empire. To stop this from happening, Britain invaded Afghanistan. At first, the British succeeded. They captured Kabul and installed a ruler they believed would serve their interests. But controlling Afghanistan proved far more difficult than entering it. Resistance grew, supply lines became vulnerable, and the mountains turned into a deadly battlefield. Eventually, Britain was forced to withdraw. It was the first warning that Afghanistan would never be easy to control. More than a century after Britain, another superpower arrived in Afghanistan. This time, it was the Soviet Union. During the Cold War, Afghanistan had become strategically important to Moscow in 1979. Fearing instability and the loss of influence in the region, the Soviet Union sent tens of thousands of troops into Afghanistan. At first, the Soviets quickly captured major cities, including Kabul, and believed they could stabilize the country. But once again, Afghanistan proved far more difficult to control than expected. Resistance fighters, known as the Mujahideen, used the mountains, valleys, and their knowledge of the land to wage a long and costly war. Year after year, casualties mounted, costs increased, and victory remained out of reach. After nearly a decade of fighting, the Soviet Union withdrew from Afghanistan.
The retreat of Soviet military power from Afghanistan is complete. The last of Russia's regular army invasion force is out. Fear and uncertainty were mixed with joy today as the commander of Soviet troops followed the last of his men across the border, leaving the communist Afghan regime alone to face victorious resistance fighters. CBS News Moscow correspondent Barry Peterson begins our coverage.
Almost a decade of Soviet bloodshed and battle ended 5 minutes ahead of schedule as the Soviet army completed its retreat. The last combat soldier to leave, Commanding General Boris Gromov. He walked across the Friendship Bridge into the arms of his 15-year-old son.
Another superpower had learned the same lesson. Then came the world's most advanced military power, the United States.
The United States military has begun strikes against Al-Qaeda terrorist training camps and military installations of the Taliban regime in Afghanistan.
The events of September 11, 2001 changed global politics and led the United States to launch military operations in Afghanistan. When that did not happen, the United States, together with NATO allies, launched military operations in Afghanistan. Within weeks, major cities, including Kabul, fell under the control of US and allied forces. It appeared that another superpower had succeeded, but Afghanistan had one more lesson to teach. The war continued year after year. Mountains, remote valleys, and a determined insurgency turned the conflict into America's longest war. Trillions of dollars were spent, thousands of lives were lost, and victory remained elusive.
A C-17 with U.S. troops aboard officially leaving Afghan airspace.
This historic moment, the last U.S. troops have withdrawn from Afghanistan, ending America's longest war.
In 2021, after nearly 20 years of war, the United States and NATO withdrew from Afghanistan. Afghanistan had now challenged three superpowers. Why has no superpower been able to truly conquer Afghanistan? Britain failed, the Soviet Union failed, the United States and NATO failed, and perhaps even more surprising, more than 2,000 years ago, Alexander the Great conquered vast parts of the known world. His armies swept across kingdoms and empires. Yet when he reached Afghanistan, he encountered fierce resistance in a land that proved extraordinarily difficult to control. So what makes this country different? Why does history keep repeating itself here? The answer lies in Afghanistan's geography, its strategic location, its people, and the mountains that have challenged empires for centuries. Afghanistan is covered by towering mountains, narrow passes, and remote valleys that make invasion, supply lines, and long-term control extremely difficult. Afghanistan sits at the crossroads of Central Asia, South Asia, and the Middle East, making it strategically important for empires throughout history. Afghanistan has strong tribal traditions, a deep sense of independence, and a long history of resisting foreign rule. For centuries, local fighters have known every mountain pass, valley, and route far better than outside armies. Wars in Afghanistan become long, expensive, and difficult to sustain, eventually exhausting even powerful empires. This is the core explanation of why Afghanistan became known as the graveyard of empires. Alexander, Britain, the Soviet Union, the United States, empires rose and fell, but Afghanistan endured. This is World Unfolded.